I'm Damon Zell, and it's time for your Eve Echoes weekly news update. As always, if you could please tag that subscribe button and ring that bell, then you can stay up to date with everything unfolding within the universe of Eve Echoes. Well, to start off, we had our weekly maintenance, and even though it wasn't as smooth as last week's, and it was extended by 2 hours, it did bring some overall nice additions, and I feel with each patch the game is actually evolving. This patch did bring with it a lot of controversy and debate on how Echoes should address traveling. Well, let's review some of the bigger additions and fixes that this patch brought us. Well, broker's fees will no longer be charged when modifying your Plex buy orders, and if you've been watching the market at all this week, you're extremely thankful for this. They updated the estimated price for items, so now those kill mails will actually fall more in line with actual market data. They updated the guide to New Eden so that when players obtain new museum items, ores, or completes exploration of a new region for the first time, they're going to receive a commemorative stamp for those new entries. Completionists, I'm definitely looking at you for this. It's actually now possible to initiate a contract now from a pilot's business card, which does make forming contracts a small step in the right direction, but they still need a working context for these contracts. They added a guide for following communities. Now, you might have seen a new button on that station menu labeled Community. And if you click it, you can select from Discord, Facebook, VK, Twitter, YouTube, or Instagram, and you can actually collect a free 1,000 skill points. Now, you don't actually have to join any of these. Just by hitting any of those, you'll be rewarded those free skill points. Fixed an issue where some corporations wouldn't show up in diplomacy search. That's a big one. They fixed Corp wallet permissions, so now only members who have the withdrawal deposit permissions or finance management permissions can view the Corp wallet, and only those members with finance management permissions can set the tax rate. Optimize the overview settings, and now all of us are trying to relearn where everything is again. This patch fixed a number of bugs, and this is where the controversy comes into play. Since the last patch, there was a bug that if you hit Autopilot, you were impervious to warp disruption. In essence, a get-out-of-jail-free card. And players got used to this quick. And I'm telling you right now, it's a double-edged sword. Haulers and traders could autopilot without impunity, set their course, and not have to worry about a thing. You couldn't be caught in a station or a gate camp, no matter how many points of disruption were on you. On the other hand, you had pilots who could now do higher-tiered content anomalies with no fear of getting pointed, either by rats or anyone who would drop in on them. All they had to do was keep a destination set in their autopilot, and if you got into trouble, just push that escape button. There was no risk if you could hold out until that warp kicked in. The devs fixed this bug, and now death and destruction have reigned supreme. Gate camps and station camps could now catch any ship if they had fast tackle. Billions of ISK have been lost or destroyed since the patch went live, and the community's been very vocal about it. There are arguments for it and against it. But here's the rub. How do you fix something that was broken to begin with? Null and LawSec were never meant to be safe by any stretch of the imagination. And even though that this is Eve Mobile, it's still Eve. To further discuss this entrenching subject, I asked the Discord community to let me know their feelings on this. And I've received several with strong opinions. Parallelix believes that Echoes should be really more of a Eve casual or light, to sate the appetites of those who want a more casual Eve experience, where PvP is consensual. And he said, and I quote, "Catering to the sociopathic behaviors will not create a long-lived successful mobile game." Now all you have to do is view the many threads on Reddit to gauge the players' opinions on this. Most are of the opinion that if they wanted it to be more like EVE Online, then people should just go there and play EVE Online. Now let's look at this in actuality. Autopilot in Echoes is far safer than that of EVE Online. For one, in Echoes your autopilot lands you at each gate at 0, whereas in EVE Online you land at 10 and slow boat to 5 to jump out. Frigates and destroyers can still 90% of the time move around safely. Now, some tips to avoid autopilot death are just some common sense things. 1. Use the station immunity to your advantage. If you're in a station, poke your head out to gauge the outgate. You have about 30 seconds of immunity to look around, and as long as you don't engage the autopilot or change directions, you can jump back into the station and be safe. 2. Use a scout. If you're transporting huge amounts of ISK and goods, have a buddy jump a system ahead of you to see if any gate camps are up. And 3. Autopilot to a safe system if you have to put your phone down. If you're transporting out to nullsec or lowsec, and you don't want to look at your phone for the 40 plus jumps, then just set your autopilot to the last safe zone of that path. When you can actively watch, you can continue your path to low or no-sec. With every patch, there are some bugs. And we've had some pretty weird ones after this one. None so much other than the one where the warp and point on some stations have been moved. They're actually now in the middle of the structure, so these ships that are warping to station in that system actually end up trapped inside the station. It's actually really funny. But hi, welcome to the Eve Outback, where today we see a herd of caracals dancing and swaying in the hopes of attracting a mate.
Remarkable bird, the Norwegian blue, innit? Beautiful plumage.
I'm sorry, I don't know what happened right there. In gaming news, there have been numerous reports of players mass banning others in their space by abusing the report player feature. Now, if a player gets 10 reports on them, the account is then flagged and banned for several days. Now, there's an easy way to combat this. Simply, don't say stupid crap in local. Don't be baited into a situation that will get you temporarily banned. And if you do receive one of these, please contact customer service, as they can review these on a case-to-case basis. We were also treated this week to an updated roadmap for Echoes and what to expect with the big patch coming this fall. In this big patch, and we'll learn more about this in detail later this month, we can expect a lot of changes overall with game mechanics, modules, and a round of balancing. They're changing the behavior mechanics of NPC pirates in the game with what they are calling dynamic fleets. These rat changes will spread to all PvE content, including encounters, anomalies, and bases. The first round of true E-War will be coming in November with the inclusion of remote sensors and warp scramblers. Target painters will also be added in at this time, and my personal favorite, interdiction sphere launchers. Now, if you're not familiar with this mechanic, it's when a sphere is launched from an interdictor ship, ceasing all warp capabilities within, I believe it's a 10 kilometer, 360 degree direction. You may have heard these referred to as warp bubbles. And if autopilot outrage is any indication, people will be screaming and losing their minds when this comes into play. We can also see by the roadmap that Sovereignty is slated for release in December. They'll be introducing an alliance management skill, so this could be a sign of the number of corporations within an alliance being raised. Citadels are going to be introduced at this time, but I don't think they're talking about keep stars at this point in the game. I do believe what they mean are corporation stations being able to be built. We'll be getting an update to fleets by what they call joint fleets or fleets 2.0. And lastly, everyone's favorite EVE Online mechanic, and yes, I'm being sarcastic, time dilation. Now, this is a mechanic that allows for huge fleet battles to take place, and I'm talking like 500 versus 500 or more. And how it achieves this is by slowing down time in that system to allow for all these hundreds of inputs to take place. Think of it as watching a super slow mode fight, and for every second that passes, it takes about 10 in-game. Plex prices sharply rose this week by a staggering 100,000 between the 6th and 7th, and seem to have leveled out around 190,000. Currently, as people are renewing their Omega clones, the price is slowly coming down and settling somewhere in the neighborhood of 175 to 186. Genesis Federation has been hit by Elysium in a series of attacks over the last week. A multi-pronged assault was initiated at first by popping all the rat bases in the area of Esoteria, and then hunting down all of the miners. After these guerrilla attacks, the fleet moved in for the full conflict. The initial attack occurred in System BZ Tech OGW, and after GenFed's fleet was broken, Elysium sent out kill squads to scour the systems and hit anything that moved. Losses on the Elysium side were minimal and expected as they were running without logistic backup. However, the same cannot be said for Genesis Federation side, as total losses added up to over 200 ships. As to the reasoning behind the attack, it really came down to the war going on between the opposing force and Genesis Federation. Opposing force and Elysium are allies together within a greater coalition that was formed since the beta. Elysium was content to let Gen Fed and opposing force fight it out due to some bad blood between them, but they also felt that the war has been going on for too long and that they needed to step in, as Genesis Federation seemed to have no plans on ending this war. Since the attack, a few corporations from Genesis Federation have taken residence within Delve alongside goons. When asked if Elysium had any interactions with the goons, they say that they had none, and that they were just busy bees down there in Delve. The Silent Alliance claims the honor for being the first alliance to drop a capsular outpost within the game. I'm not sure if this painted a large target on them or not, but let's wish them all good luck. Down in Aquarius region, Trimark Industries engaged INF, which fielded a 50-man cruiser fleet while Trimark fielded a 70-man destroyer fleet. These fleets battled a few times throughout the system, with Trimark carrying the day. The Crimson Knoll Kingdom have moved their base of operations out into Null and are immediately wreaking havoc along the pipelines and catch. One of their members caught and killed 2 succubuses in the span of 3 days by the same pilot. Another big kill was scored as they burned down a hauler carrying over 350 million ISK of goods. Okay, so the corporation spotlight this week actually goes out to an alliance, the Mercenary Coalition. Once again, they raise the flag, a tribute to Seleene and those who have fought in the Mercenary Coalition for years across the battlefields of New Eden and EVE Online. As EVE Echoes breathes a fresh life into the game, they look forward to the fights to come as empires are once again built and broken. Their intention is to once again be the shock troops that anyone can hire to sow havoc and discourse. They will always be fighting someone somewhere to ensure that training never stops. Their FC ranks are filled with grizzled EVE Online veteran FCs, as well as plenty of micro-gang hunters, so they can get the best of both the small gang and large-scale engagements. They hold no political allegiance, nor will they ever bend the knee to anyone except the coin that they are paid. The Mercenary Coalition has a long history when led by Seleene, who at one time went to work as a developer for CCP, following some beautiful videos made for EVE Online. I've listed a few below as reference, as well as a link to the Mercenary Coalition history. Fast forward back to 2020, and here they are coming together in pursuit of glory once more. Many look at EVE Echoes as a way to relive the once glory days of EVE Online, and to a degree they are right. How many times have people said that they wished EVE had a new server, or EVE 2 was released due to the many mistakes made by the developers over the years, which created massive impacts in the game world, which it has never recovered from. Skill injectors, oracles, capitals, jump fatigue mechanics, solve mechanics, and more have been iterated on over the years in EVE Online, and they hope that this has given CCP a broad look at what does and doesn't work. How these things will be implemented into a mobile game is yet to be known. However, so far the future looks bright. Here they are on the ground floor of things, where time of conflict will be the greatest. This is the perfect time to be a mercenary once again. Mercenary Coalition's motto is, "It's about the person next to you," as they greatly value their fellow mercenaries. They have a zero-tolerance policy for any personal attacks, racial or religious comments, or attacks towards the LGBTQ community. MC has always been inclusive of everyone and will continue this here in EVE Echoes. They already have members from all walks of life all over the world, and they look forward to bringing in more as things move forward. If you ever felt that you don't fit in, then the MC just might be the place for you. They have many people willing to help out daily and teach you how to be a part of something great. MC is a fighting force above all else, so the industrial players that they take in are somewhat limited. However, they do have a dedicated corporation for fellow miners and builders. For their core PvP group, expect constant deployments to wherever their contracts take them. For whoever they're shooting, just remember, it isn't personal. It's just business. You had the opportunity to hire them before the conflict even began. They're currently evaluating contract options, and the MC does have a democratic process to approve these contracts, which are in the best interest of the MC forces. This rests with the MRB, the Mercenary Review Board, which consists of the CEO and director of each member corporation with additional officials based on active member count. PromisedOne sits as the chairman of the MRB with the ability to decide tie votes, however is unable to vote on contracts otherwise because he's the line's contract negotiator. This process helps to ensure that the contracts put forward will benefit everyone in the MC. Lastly, remember that this is just a game, and all they want at the end of the day is just to blow up internet spaceships. A link to their public services, as well as contact information, can be found in the description below. Well, that's it for this week. A new episode of Eve Echo's Weekly News Update can be found on this channel next Monday and every Monday. Now, if you need more Echo's news in your life, check out the Eve News Network for all your fast-breaking news during the week with your news anchor, Sovereign RPG, as well as the Echoes of New Eden podcast each and every Wednesday with your host, Sean. Again, I'm Damon Zell, and remember that your enemy cannot disrupt you from within a pod.